When someone with an avoidant pattern hurts you, the silence you get afterward is rarely peace, it's self-protection. It can feel like they walked away untouched, like they closed the door and left you alone in the storm. And your mind starts doing that brutal thing where it searches for a reason that will hurt less than the truth. You replay your words, you replay their tone, you replay the last moment everything shifted, and you wonder how a person can be close to you one day and then emotionally vanish the next. But listen to me, because this is where your clarity begins. They don't withdraw because nothing happened. They withdraw because something happened inside them that they don't know how to hold. For many avoidant hearts, admitting harm doesn't feel like a simple human act of responsibility. It feels like stepping into a spotlight they've spent their whole life avoiding. If they say, "Yes, I hurt you," they're not just acknowledging your pain, they're confronting their own reflection. And that reflection terrifies them because it doesn't say, "You made a mistake." It whispers, "You are a mistake." And that's shame, not guilt. Guilt says, "I did something wrong, I can repair it." Shame says, "I am wrong, and if you see it, you will leave." So they do the only thing their nervous system knows. They retreat, they go quiet, they minimize, they act normal, they pretend it wasn't that deep, they bury the emotional evidence so they don't have to feel exposed. And this is why the silence feels so cruel, because it doesn't just hurt you, it also erases you. It makes you feel like your tears were too heavy, like your needs were too loud, like your love was too much, when in reality, your love simply asked them to be present. The silence is not proof that you were unworthy, it's proof that closeness demands a kind of emotional courage they haven't built yet. They learned long ago that emotions create danger, that conflict leads to abandonment, that vulnerability costs too much, so when accountability knocks, they treat it like a threat, not a bridge. But I need you to stop handing the microphone of your self-worth to someone who is terrified of their own feelings. Your pain is real, even if they deny it, even if they change the subject, even if they act like your heartbreak is an inconvenience. Their distance doesn't rewrite what happened, it only reveals what they do when love gets real. And yes, sometimes they do feel it, but it arrives in fragments, in late-night memories, in a sudden ache they can't name, in the quiet moment where they remember your face, when you realized you were alone in the relationship. Yet even then, instead of turning toward you, they turn away from themselves, because facing you would mean facing the part of them that knows they failed. So here is your power. You don't need their admission to validate your reality. You don't need their perfect apology to prove that what you felt mattered. You can honor your heart without waiting for someone else to become brave. You can stop chasing closure from a person who uses silence as a shield, and you can start giving yourself the safety they couldn't offer. Because healing begins the moment you realize their withdrawal is about their capacity, not your value, and you are allowed to choose a love that doesn't disappear when it's time to take responsibility. Their "I'm fine" can sound so convincing that it makes you doubt your own reality, like you're the only one carrying the emotional weight while they move through life untouched. You see them acting normal, posting, laughing, staying busy, speaking casually, and your heart asks a question that feels almost unbearable. How can someone hurt me and not feel it? And that question, if you're not careful, turns into a sentence you place on yourself. Maybe I didn't matter. Maybe I was replaceable. Maybe I was too easy to lose. But listen to me, because what looks like ease is often armor, and what looks like confidence can be fear disguised as control. For many avoidant patterns, "I'm fine" is not a statement of peace, it's a survival strategy. It's the fastest way to shut the door on feelings that feel dangerous, overwhelming, or humiliating. They learned early that emotions lead to consequences, that needing someone means giving up power, that admitting hurt means risking rejection. So they train themselves to stay composed, to stay logical, to stay detached, not because they're stronger than you, but because they are terrified of what they might feel if they actually stop and look. Some people process pain by talking, crying, repairing, connecting. Avoidant coping often processes pain by flattening it, by turning the volume down until the heart becomes quiet enough to ignore. So when they say, "I'm fine," it can mean, "If I let myself feel this, I won't know how to survive it." It can mean, "If I admit I miss you, I'll have to admit I needed you. It can mean if I face the damage, I'll have to face myself, and I don't trust myself to be good. That's why they keep moving, because stillness would force them to hear the truth. Stillness would bring up the memories, your face, your silence, the moment you pulled away, the moment you stopped asking, the moment you stopped fighting for someone who was already halfway gone. And when those memories rise, they don't rise like a clean wave, they rise like shame, like guilt, like a heat in the chest that feels like exposure. But instead of turning toward you with vulnerability, they often turn toward distraction, work, friends, gym, scrolling, someone new, anything that keeps the emotional room empty. And I know what that does to you, because it creates a cruel illusion. It makes you think they're thriving while you're breaking. It makes you feel like love was a one-sided language. It makes you feel foolish for caring. Yet the truth is, numbness is not healing, avoidance is not strength, and moving on fast is not always moving on. Sometimes it's running. And here's the heartbreak. You can't argue someone into emotional honesty. You can't love someone into facing themselves. You can't explain your pain so perfectly that it suddenly unlocks their empathy. Because this isn't about whether they understood your words. It's about whether they have the capacity to sit in discomfort without shutting down. Their nervous system has been trained to treat emotional intensity like danger, so they choose distance. Not because you were unlovable, but because intimacy asks for a kind of emotional adulthood they haven't practiced. So if you are sitting there, staring at their calm, thinking it proves you meant nothing, I need you to release that thought. Their calm may be a mask, their fine may be denial, and even if they truly look unbothered, it still doesn't define your worth. Your worth is not measured by someone else's ability to feel. Your heart is not less valuable because it is open. Your love is not a mistake because it was given to someone who didn't know how to receive it with care. You don't need to become colder to be safe. You need to become clearer, clear about what you deserve, clear about what peace looks like, clear about the kind of love that doesn't require you to shrink your needs. Because the deepest victory is not making them admit they weren't fine. The deepest victory is refusing to let their emotional shutdown make you abandon yourself. You don't need their confession to validate your pain, and I know that sentence sounds simple until you are the one lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything, wondering how you can feel so much while they say so little. Because when someone refuses to acknowledge what they did, it can make you feel like your reality is floating, like there's no ground under your feet. You start questioning yourself. You start shrinking your needs. You start rewriting the story to make it easier to bear. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe if I had been calmer, softer, easier, they would have stayed. And that is the most dangerous kind of pain. Not the pain of being hurt, but the pain of being hurt and then being convinced you have no right to hurt. But listen closely, your emotions are not a courtroom where their approval is required for the verdict. Your heart is not a witness that needs their signature before it becomes credible. If you felt dismissed, you were dismissed. If you felt abandoned, you were abandoned. If you felt like you were begging for basic care, then basic care was missing. The truth does not become less true because someone refuses to speak it. Silence is not proof that nothing happened. Silence is often proof that they don't know how to face what happened without losing control. And when you are dealing with someone who avoids accountability, your mind naturally tries to solve the puzzle. You want the moment where they finally say, "I know I hurt you," because you believe those words will turn chaos into closure. You believe those words will return your dignity, return your peace, return the version of you that didn't feel crazy for wanting love to be kind. But here's the truth that will protect you. Closure that depends on their confession makes your healing a hostage. It ties your calm to someone else's courage, and if they don't have that courage, you stay stuck, waiting, hoping, searching, checking, forgiving too quickly, explaining again, giving one more chance, not because you're weak, but because you're human and you want the pain to end. Yet your healing begins the moment you stop requiring them to be honest for you to be whole. Because you already have evidence, your anxiety is evidence, your tears are evidence, the way your body tensed around their inconsistency is evidence, the nights you couldn't sleep because your nervous system didn't feel safe is evidence. You don't need them to confirm what your heart already lived. You don't need them to agree that it mattered. It mattered because it changed you. It mattered because it cost you peace. It mattered because you felt yourself becoming smaller in order to keep them comfortable. And I know you want them to see it. I know you want them to understand that you were not asking for perfection. You were asking for presence. You were not asking for grand gestures. You were asking for respect. You were not asking to control them. You were asking to be considered. But sometimes the person who hurt you cannot be the person who heals you, because the very conversation that could bring repair is the conversation they are most determined to avoid. And when you keep trying to pull accountability out of them, you can accidentally start doing something heartbreaking. You start negotiating your worth. So here is what I want you to do instead. Honor your reality without hatred. You can acknowledge what happened without needing revenge. You can grieve without begging. You can name the wound without chasing the person who caused it. Because your dignity is not something they hand back to you. Your dignity is something you reclaim the moment you say, I believe myself. And from that place, boundaries stop feeling like punishment. They start feeling like protection. Distance stops feeling like loss. It starts feeling like peace. And you stop waiting for words they may never say, because you finally choose the truth you've been living all along. The most painful trap is waiting for an apology that requires emotional maturity they haven't built yet. Because waiting feels like hope, but it slowly turns into self-abandonment. At first, you tell yourself it's only a little longer, that they just need time, that they'll calm down, that they'll come back with the right words. You hold on to the idea that if they truly loved you, they will eventually realize what they did, and you keep a small door open in your heart, even as it keeps letting cold air in. And the longer you wait, the more you start living around the wound. You plan your days with one eye on your phone. You measure your peace by their silence. You postpone your healing because you think closure is something they owe you. But listen to me, closure is not a gift that only they can give, and your life cannot be paused until someone else decides to grow. People who avoid accountability often don't avoid it because they are evil. They avoid it because it threatens their identity. An apology would force them to sit with discomfort, to admit they were wrong, to tolerate the shame of being the one who caused pain, and to stay emotionally present while another person is hurting. That requires skills, empathy, regulation, humility, consistency. If they don't have those skills, they don't suddenly gain them because you suffer quietly enough, or love them patiently enough, or explain your pain in a more perfect way. And here is the brutal part. The longer you wait for an apology that may never come, the more you begin to bargain with yourself. You start telling yourself, maybe I'll accept less, maybe I'll stop bringing it up, maybe I'll just be easy to love. You shrink your needs to reduce conflict. You soften your truth to keep them close. You act like you're okay when you're not, because you're afraid that if you ask for what you deserve, they will disappear again. That is the hidden cost of waiting. It slowly trains you to betray your own heart, and you don't even realize it's happening because it looks like loyalty. You call it patience, but it's actually pain management. You call it understanding, but it's actually self-silencing. You call it love, but it's actually fear of losing them, and fear makes you accept crumbs as if they are meals. And every time you do that, your nervous system learns a dangerous lesson. It learns that your needs are negotiable, that your feelings are inconvenient, that your dignity can be postponed for the chance of being chosen. That's why waiting can be so addictive, because it gives you the illusion of control. It says, if I just hold on, this will make sense. But healing does not come from sense. Healing comes from self-respect. If someone wants to repair, you will not have to chase it. Repair has a voice. It has clarity. It has actions that match words. It has consistency over time. Repair doesn't arrive as a midnight message, or a vague, I miss you, or a sudden softness that disappears the moment you ask a real question. True repair shows up in the willingness to face what happened without blaming you for your feelings, without turning your pain into an argument, without punishing you with distance. So I need you to make a decision that feels scary, but will save you. Stop waiting for an apology that is outside your control. Not because you don't deserve it, you absolutely do, but because your peace is too expensive to rent out to someone else's growth. You can still love who you were with them. You can still honor what you felt. You can still grieve what you hoped it could become. But you also get to choose yourself now, not later, not after they finally understand, not after they finally admit it, not after they finally change. Because the moment you stop waiting is the moment you stop bleeding in private. The moment you stop waiting is the moment you return to your own life. And that is not bitterness. That is bravery. It's you finally saying, I will not keep paying for love with my self-respect. Healing isn't about making them finally admit it. Healing is about getting your dignity back, rebuilding your boundaries, and choosing a love that doesn't require you to keep bleeding just to be believed. I know you want the moment where they look at you and say the words that would untangle the knot in your chest. I'm sorry. I see it now. I know I hurt you. Because it feels like if they admit it, then the pain becomes official, and you can finally stop questioning yourself. But when you make their admission the finish line, you hand them the power to decide when your healing begins, and that is too heavy a price for your peace. So let's talk about what healing actually looks like, because it's not dramatic, it's not loud, it's not a perfect transformation overnight. Healing is quiet. It's the moment you stop checking your phone like it's a heartbeat monitor. Healing is the moment you stop rehearsing speeches in your head, trying to explain your pain in the exact combination of words that might finally make them understand. Healing is the moment you stop shrinking your needs just to keep someone close. It's the moment you choose to believe yourself, even when they don't validate you, even when they minimize, even when they pretend nothing happened. Boundaries are not walls you build to punish someone, they're doors you build to protect what is sacred in you. A boundary is the sentence you finally say, without shaking, I'm not available for inconsistency. A boundary is the choice you make when your heart wants to run back, but your nervous system remembers what it cost you. A boundary is the way you stop begging for basic care and start requiring it. Because you cannot heal in the same conditions that wounded you, you cannot recover while still feeding your energy into someone who turns away when the relationship demands responsibility. And dignity is not pride, dignity is self-respect in motion. Dignity is the way you hold your head up even when you feel like collapsing. Dignity is the way you stop trying to prove you are worthy of love and start acting like you already know you are. It's the decision to let their silence be an answer instead of an invitation to chase. It's the decision to stop translating their coldness into a story where you are the problem. Healing is also grief, because you are not only grieving what they did, you are grieving what you hoped they would become. You are grieving the version of them that existed in the beginning, the version that felt present, that felt warm, that felt like possibility. You are grieving the future you built in your mind, the future where love was safe, where effort was mutual, where your heart wasn't always bracing for impact. And grief can feel like weakness, but it's actually love leaving your body. It's your heart finally releasing what it kept trying to hold together alone. But here's the difference between pain and healing. Pain keeps you focused on them. Healing brings you back to you. Healing asks you questions that change your life. Not, when will they admit it, but what do I need to feel safe? What do I need to trust again? What patterns am I done repeating? What kind of love actually fits the person I am becoming? Healing is you choosing relationships where your needs don't scare someone away, where your feelings aren't treated like a problem, where communication isn't a battlefield, where accountability isn't a threat. And yes, maybe one day they will feel the shame. Maybe one day they will understand the damage. Maybe one day they will regret it. But your healing cannot be built on maybe. Your healing is built on certainty, the certainty that you deserve tenderness, the certainty that love should not require you to abandon yourself, the certainty that you will not keep shrinking to fit into someone else's emotional limits. So if you are still holding on, still waiting for the words, still hoping the truth will finally be spoken, I want you to breathe and remember this. You are allowed to move forward without their permission. You are allowed to close the chapter without their confession. You are allowed to choose peace, even if they never admit what they did, because the greatest proof of healing is not their apology, it's your decision to never again trade your dignity for access to someone who couldn't love you with care.